Like, I was in one of those moments where I was like, I was proud of my audience because I was like, yo, this nigga could have snitched where I lived, but he never told nobody. He didn't tell nobody he knew me, where I was, or nothing like that. I was like, I just wanted to know, I was like, I appreciate you never like complained about nothing. You didn't tell nobody where I lived. How would I feel about somebody like living on the same street as me? Like this is, I don't know if this is a story I told, because like I said, I just moved here. You act like you're 6'6". What does that even mean? Am I supposed to be not confident because I'm short? That is the dumbest fucking logic. I might give you a 600 for that. I am 5'5". I don't ever, like, what is that with the internet, bruh? I never hid my height. I always say it, and like, you guys refuse to believe I'm short until you actually see me. He's just so confident. Like, I don't understand it. My height has nothing to do. I fuck bitches because I'm a great guy. It has nothing to do with my height. I get money. I have my own place. I'm intelligent. It has nothing. I'm telling y'all, do not believe what these women say on Twitter. Yes, there are some shallow women that will not fuck you because you're short, but I promise you, most of your favorite rappers are not above 5'6". They will fuck you if you have a purpose. But anyways, motherfuckers really be like, I'm just supposed to hide in my show because I'm short. What are you talking about? Anyways, back to what I was saying. Yeah, fucking. So yeah, the dude was asking me, would I live in live where like if like a viewer lived on the same street as me? So here's a fun fact: where I used to live in the DMV, the DC area before I moved. Yeah, people want you to be insecure about your, I don't know. Where I used to live, I used to live in like, I guess like a boarding house, kind of like Hey Arnold. Like, it was a big ass house, but the only reason I agreed to live there was because freaking, I don't know if I told the story when I was way younger, when I was like 20, my first apartment that I got, I was living with my aunt and she wasn't paying rent. Like, she missed like 3 months of rent like in a row. So like, I was paying the rent by myself and we were supposed to be splitting it. So I ended up having to leave that situation because she was doing me dirty. That's why I always telling y'all that like my family is like some of the dirtiest people that I ever met. Like, it'd be my own family. So yeah, I called one day I was like, I couldn't take it anymore because I was literally going broke because of my aunt. And like one day I called my dad up and I was like, yo, I was like, I know this is your sister, but I was like, I know you, but the situation, I was like, it's getting real bad. I was like, I thought this was gonna be a good situation because, you know, this is my first apartment. I'm living with family. We're splitting rent. And my dad kept it a buck with me. He was like, I hate I have to do this to your sister, but I was like, yo, she's doing me dirty. I was like, I gotta look out for myself. I was like, I gotta get out of this situation. And you know what my dad told me? I barely talked to this man, but he said some real shit to me. He was like, I love my sister, but he's like, you my son. He's like, you my priority. And he's like, I understand where you coming from. And he's like, but this is what you got to understand. Because remember, I was like 19, 20 at the time. He's like, this is what it's about being a man. He's like, being a real man is about making some hard motherfucking decisions. And he's like, I love my sister, but he's like, there's a reason why she's living with you at 19, 20 years old. She's like, she don't got her life all the way together. And he's like, that's my sister, but he's like, you got to do what's best for you. He's like, I support your decision. And I was like, all right. So it's like, just for clarification, we have an understanding. I can do what the fuck I want, right? He was like, yeah. He's like, handle that shit. I was like, bet. So the next day I left. I moved out. Turns out my name wasn't even on the lease. So I was able to leave. I left her high and dry because she wasn't paying rent. Didn't say nothing. I literally packed my shit and left the next day just randomly, like when she was at work. I think I had like an off day or something like that. And my manager at the time at my old job, he was moving out of the spot. He knew that I needed a new spot like ASAP. He was like, I'm actually moving out into a new apartment. He's like, I'm moving out of my spot. So he's like, the room that I'm renting right now, it's available right now. He's like, I can put in a good word with you because for those of you unaware, like at my old job as a teacher, I won best room like 2 years in a row. So I was known for like being a hard worker. He was like, yeah, I'll put in a good word for the landlord for you. He's like, I can get you the spot in no time. I was like, bet. So he put in a good word for me. I paid the security deposit and I moved in like the next day or whatever. And it was basically like a boarding house. And the only reason I agreed to live there is because even though I was renting a room, it was a big ass room. It was like the size of a basement. It was a huge fucking room. It was basically a, what's the word? when it's not an apartment. It was a studio. It was a studio sized room. It was huge. And all I had to do was share an apartment. No, I had to share a bathroom with somebody else who was renting a smaller room in the house. And then we had like a shared kitchen and shit like that. So I lived there for like a few years. That's where I was streaming from before I moved to this new apartment or whatever. So it was a really bad situation I had there, but the room was big. I was able to stream out of there. I had plenty of space, record videos and stuff like that. Long story short, there was a guy who was like my neighbor, I guess. He lived in the room next to me. He moved out, and then a new guy moved in like a few weeks later, a black dude. I kid you not, true story. I come out my room, I think I was streaming or something. And yo, shout out to Duff Saint with the 100 bits. True story. I came out to the bathroom when I was streaming, and I heard one of my old videos playing on his TV through his room. And I'm like, yo, I heard myself on the TV. I'm like, yo, is that me? So I'm not gonna lie, I was being nosy. I put my ear to his door or whatever. I was like, oh my God, this nigga's a fan. Yo, real shit. This is a true story. God strike me down, right? So I lived with this nigga for like 2 years. He knew who I was. I talked to him like I would talk to him in passing when I would go to the grocery store coming out of the house. When he was going to work, he used to ride his bike to work. I think he worked like in a restaurant or something like that. He knew who I was. I would bring girls over. He wouldn't say nothing. Fucking when he brought women over, he didn't say. We just always had kind of like this mutual understanding. And like, shout out to this nigga, because real shit. There was a wall that separated our rooms, and like I knew he heard me like late nights when I was streaming or like recording videos, like laughing with friends and shit like that. This nigga never complained. He never made a noise complaint. The dude before him used to make noise complaints, and the dudes after him too. That's one of the reasons I left. But he never made a noise complaint because he knew what I did. He was on some real shit. He was a real one. And also he was kind of loud at night too because he was a gamer. I never complained about him too. Long story short, I'm not trying to, well, y'all don't even know who it is. The dude was from Philly. He moved down to the DMV because he got that job at that restaurant or whatever. Long story short, he ended up losing his job. And the only reason I knew is because, like I said, the walls were thin, and I heard him crying on the phone one day. He was crying on the phone. He lost his job. He didn't know what to do. He couldn't pay rent. And I felt bad for him. I'm not gonna lie, I felt bad for him. So I came out of my room and I knocked on his door. And I was like, look, man, cause like I said, he never snitched on me. He never did a noise complaint. I was like, look, man, it's like, I heard about your situation. I was like, how much is your rent? He's like, I'll handle. I was like, do you think you can find a job within the next month? I was like, I'll handle your rent this month.
Black Pop.
And he was like, nah, man. He's like, I don't want that shit. He's like, this is my life. He's like, I'm gonna handle that shit. He's like, I'm gonna just go back home and try to figure my life out and shit like that. I was like, all right, well, I was like, the offer's always on the table until you move. And then he's like, just so you know, he's like, I always knew who you were. I was like, yeah. He's like, I knew you knew. I was like, cause I heard you listening to one of my videos one time. And I was like, I would just like to say before you leave, I was like, I appreciate that you didn't blow my spot up, cause this nigga low key, he could have told where I lived. But I was like, this nigga, like, I was in one of those moments where I was proud of my audience, because I was like, yo, this nigga could have snitched where I lived, but he never told nobody. He didn't tell nobody he knew me, where I was, or nothing like that. I was like, I just wanted to know. I was like, I appreciate you never like complained about nothing. You didn't tell nobody where I lived. And he's like, nah, it's cool. He's like, I got your merch and everything. He's like, yo, you a real one. He's like, I look up to you. He's like, I've been trying to get into like voice acting, and we talked a little bit about that. And then like the next day, I guess he like left because, like I said, he couldn't pay his rent, and he went back to Philly. But that was literally, we had interactions in passing, like when I would leave the house and go somewhere, and when he would leave and go somewhere, and it'd be like, yo, what up? I knew he knew who I was, but we never had like a real conversation. That was the first and last time that I ever talked to that dude. And I felt kind of bad. That's why I offered to handle his rent for him for like that month or whatever, but he said, this is too much. He said, that shit is touching. So like, I know his name. I'm not gonna say his name because I'm not gonna put his business out there, shit like that. But if you still watch me, I would like to say I appreciate that you never snitched on me. I appreciate that shit. He was never like a complainer or whatever. He was a real one for that shit. He said, dude is smiling in tears hearing that shit. Yeah, I always appreciated that shit. He said it's wholesome. But yeah, that's a true story. I had a fan that was literally my neighbor. He never said it. He said that sounds like a tribute video, and he's a real one for never snitching or complaining about noise and shit like that. I don't know if he still watches me. I'm gonna assume he does, but you know who you are. That was one of the best stories I've heard out of the years of been watching you. I be going through shit on the low. I just don't share everything. The only reason I'm sharing that story is because I don't live there anymore. But like, if I was still in that situation, I would have never shared it. But like, the main thing I appreciated out of him is he knew who I was and he never told anybody where I lived. But he said that's some real shit. Respect.